Welcome, wanderers of the shadowed paths, to another descent into the abyss on throne of nightmares. I am your guide through the forgotten corridors of history, where the walls whisper secrets long buried beneath layers of dust and deceit. Tonight, we unearth a tale that clings to the soul like damp earth after a grave has been disturbed. We delve into the dark secrets of the Thornton family, a lineage that once stood as a pillar of English nobility, only to crumble under the weight of its own unspeakable horrors. Imagine, if you will, the year is 1897. A chill autumn wind sweeps across the Yorkshire moors, carrying the scent of decaying heather and something far more sinister, the metallic tang of old blood. Thornton Hall looms on the horizon, a monolithic structure of weathered stone, its towers piercing the leaden sky like accusatory fingers. Ivy clings to its facade like veins pulsing with forgotten life, and the windows, dark and vacant, stare out as if harboring eyes that never blink. This is no mere estate, it is a sentinel of secrets, a mausoleum masquerading as a home. The Thorntons were not always synonymous with dread. In the annals of British aristocracy, they began as merchants of modest means in the 17th century, rising through cunning trade and alliances that spanned the seas. But whispers persist, whispers that their fortune was forged not in honest commerce, but in pacts sealed under moonless nights. Family portraits, yellowed with age, depict stern faces with eyes that seem to follow you, hiding the madness that festered within. Elias Thornton, the patriarch who built the hall in 1682, is said to have vanished without a trace one stormy evening, leaving behind only a blood-stained journal filled with cryptic runes and pleas for forgiveness. As we peel back the layers tonight, prepare yourself for a journey that blurs the line between history and nightmare. What drove a family of wealth and influence to the brink of oblivion? Was it greed, a curse woven into their bloodline? Or something far older, a primordial evil that slumbers beneath the earth, awakening only to claim its due? The Thornton saga is riddled with vanishings, entire branches of the family tree erased as if by an invisible hand. Servants spoke in hushed tones of screams echoing from locked rooms, of shadows that moved with unnatural grace, and of a hidden chamber where the air grew thick with the stench of rot. Picture the scene: a young heir, Reginald Thornton, in the early 1800s, inherits the estate amid rumors of his father's untimely demise. Reginald, with his pallid skin and piercing blue eyes, was a man of science and ambition, yet even he could not escape the pull of the family's shadowed legacy. One fateful night, as thunder cracked the sky, he descended into the cellars, drawn by an inexplicable whisper. What he found there? But we must not rush ahead. The hook lies in the unknown, in the creeping dread that builds like fog enveloping a lone traveler. This is no fairy tale of redemption. The Thorntons' story is a descent into the abyss, where each revelation pulls you deeper into the mire. Families like theirs remind us that bloodlines are not mere threads of ancestry, but chains that bind us to the past's unforgiven sins. In the quiet hours, when the world sleeps, do you ever feel the weight of unseen eyes upon you? The Thorntons did, and it consumed them. As we embark on this narrative, let the atmosphere envelop you. Feel the chills seep into your bones. Hear the creak of ancient floorboards underfoot. Smell the musty decay of forgotten tomes. The dark secrets of the Thornton family are not just a story, they are a warning etched in the annals of the damned. Stay with me, dear listener, as we step into the gloom. For once you enter Thornton Hall, the doors may close behind you forever. But before we plunge into the heart of the tale, consider this: in every grand estate, there lies a room that no one enters. In Thornton Hall, that room was the East Wing Library, sealed after a fire in 1753 that claimed the lives of 3 Thornton children. Survivors spoke of flames that danced with unnatural hues, blues and greens, as if fueled by alchemical sorcery. The books that burned were not ordinary volumes, they were grimoires bound in leather that some swore was human skin. Elias Thornton's descendants inherited more than land, they inherited a curse that twisted their minds and souls. The allure of the Thorntons lies in their duality: pillars of society by day, harbingers of doom by night. Their balls and galas masked the rot beneath, where guests vanished into the night, never to be seen again. One such guest, Lady Amelia Hargrove, attended a masquerade in 1821 and was last spotted wandering the gardens, her laughter turning to screams as the fog swallowed her whole. Her body was never found, but her mask, stained with what appeared to be tears of blood, washed up on the nearby riverbank days later. This introduction serves as your threshold, listener. Cross it, and there's no turning back. The Thornton family's dark secrets await, coiled like serpents in the underbrush. As the wind howls outside your window tonight, remember some legacies are better left buried. But curiosity, that eternal temptress, bids us dig deeper. Let us begin the unraveling. Pause for atmospheric sound, distant thunder rumbling, fading into a whisper of wind through cracked windows. The story starts not with grandeur, but with a single, fateful decision in the misty dawn of England's turbulent history. Elias Thornton, born in 1645 amid the chaos of the English Civil War, was a man forged in the fires of ambition. Orphaned young, he clawed his way from the squalor of London's docks to the opulent halls of power. But ambition alone does not build empires, it requires sacrifice. And oh, what sacrifices the Thorntons made. As we transition into the main narrative, envision the moors stretching endlessly, a sea of undulating green shrouded in perpetual twilight. Here, in this desolate beauty, the seeds of nightmare were sown. The Thornton family's ascent was meteoric, but every rise casts a longer shadow. Prepare to meet the ghosts that walk these halls, for they are hungry for remembrance. And so, we step across the threshold into Thornton Hall, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of aged wood and unspoken regrets. Let us begin with Elias Thornton, the architect of the family's fortune and its curse. Born in the shadow of Cromwell's iron rule, Elias was a boy of sharp wits and sharper hungers. The streets of London in 1650 were a labyrinth of plague-ridden alleys, where survival meant outwitting death itself. Elias, with his raven hair and eyes like polished obsidian, learned early that power came not from birthright, but from secrets bartered in the dark. By 1670, Elias had amassed a modest fleet of trading ships, plying the routes to the New World. But trade in spices and silks was not enough. He delved into the lucrative shadows of the Atlantic slave trade, his vessels carrying human cargo across storm-tossed seas. Whispers among his crew spoke of Elias's uncanny luck. Storms parted before his ships, rivals' vessels foundered on unseen reefs. Some said he consulted with dark forces, performing rituals under the blood moon, offering libations of rum mixed with blood to appease sea spirits. It was in 1682 that Elias commissioned Thornton Hall, atop a hill overlooking the Yorkshire moors. The land was cheap, cursed by local folklore as the site of ancient druidic sacrifices. Villagers crossed themselves when speaking of it, recounting tales of barrows where the dead refused to stay buried. Elias laughed at such superstitions, but as the foundations were laid, workers unearthed strange artifacts, bone carvings etched with runes, and a stone altar stained with what tests later revealed to be human blood from centuries past. The hall rose like a beast from the earth, its architecture a blend of Gothic spires and Baroque excess. Elias moved in with his young bride Isabella, a woman of fragile beauty and Spanish descent, her dark eyes holding secrets of her own. Their union produced 3 children: Jonathan, the eldest, strong and willful; Beatrice, whose laughter echoed like bells in the empty halls; and little Edmund, frail and watchful, with a gaze that seemed to pierce the veil between worlds. Life at Thornton Hall began as a facade of prosperity. Grand parties illuminated the ballrooms, where crystal chandeliers cast dancing lights on silk gowns and powdered wigs. But beneath the revelry, cracks formed. Isabella grew pale, haunted by nightmares of shadowy figures lurking in the corridors. She confided in her diary, discovered years later in a hidden compartment, that Elias spent nights in the cellars, poring over forbidden terms acquired from occult dealers in Amsterdam. These books spoke of immortality, of binding one's soul to the land through blood rites. One winter's eve in 1695, tragedy struck. Beatrice, only 12, vanished during a game of hide and seek. Servants searched the hall and moors for days, finding only her ribbon tangled in the thorns of an ancient hawthorn tree. Elias forbade mention of her name, but Isabella's grief twisted into madness. She wandered the halls at night, calling for her daughter, her voice a spectral wail that chilled the blood. Jonathan, now heir apparent, inherited his father's ambition, but none of his subtlety. By 1705, he expanded the family trade into opium from the east, amassing wealth that rivaled the crown. Yet the hall seemed to feed on their success. Strange occurrences multiplied, clocks stopping at midnight, mirrors reflecting rooms that didn't exist, and a persistent chill in the east wing that no fire could dispel. Edmund, the overlooked son, delved into the family's growing library of esoterica. He documented visions, apparitions of Beatrice, her form translucent, beckoning him to the cellars. She whispers of father's pact, he wrote in trembling script, a debt unpaid, blood for blood. The turning point came in 1712. Elias, now aged and gaunt, summoned his sons to the cellar. The room was a cavern of dripping stone, illuminated by flickering torches. At its center stood the unearthed altar, now cleaned and inscribed with fresh runes. Elias revealed the truth: his fortune stemmed from a ritual performed on a voyage in 1675, binding his lineage to an ancient entity, a guardian of the threshold, as he called it. In exchange for prosperity, it demanded periodic offerings, the life force of kin. Jonathan recoiled in horror, but Edmund's eyes gleamed with forbidden knowledge. That night, a storm raged as Elias performed the rite, sacrificing a portion of his own vitality to appease the entity. But something went awry. Screams echoed through the hall, and when dawn broke, Elias was gone, vanished like Beatrice, leaving only a scorch mark on the altar. Isabella, broken, threw herself from the tower the following week, her body crumpling on the flagstones below. Jonathan assumed control, sealing the cellar and vowing to bury the past. But the entity hungered still. Servants reported seeing Elias's shadow flitting through the halls, his whispers urging Jonathan to honor the pact. As years passed, Jonathan married Eleanor, a heiress from a rival family, and sired Reginald in 1720. The hall prospered outwardly, but inwardly decay set in. Crops on the estate failed inexplicably. Livestock bore monstrous deformities, and villagers avoided the moors after dusk, claiming to hear childish laughter mingling with cries of pain. Reginald grew into a scholarly youth, fascinated by alchemy. He uncovered Edmund's journals hidden in the library and began experimenting in secret. By 1740, with Jonathan ailing from a mysterious wasting disease, Reginald confronted his uncle Edmund, now a reclusive figure in the attics. Edmund confessed he had aided Elias in the ritual, sacrificing Beatrice to renew the pact when fortunes waned. Horror gripped Reginald, but ambition whispered louder. As Jonathan breathed his last, muttering of shadows closing in, Reginald descended to the cellar. The altar pulsed with an otherworldly glow, and there, in the flickering light, he saw her, Beatrice's apparition, her eyes pleading yet malevolent. Thus, the cycle continued. The Thornton family's dark secrets wove tighter, binding each generation in threads of blood and betrayal. As we pause here, listener, feel the weight of the hall pressing upon you. The moors outside whisper warnings, but the story beckons us deeper. What horrors await in the unfolding years? The entity stirs, and the Thorntons' debt grows ever due. Deeper we descend into the labyrinthine heart of Thornton Hall, where the walls remember every scream, every whispered incantation. The 19th century dawned upon the Thorntons like a blade glinting in the fog, promising progress but delivering only deeper darkness. Reginald, now lord of the estate, married Victoria in 1745, a woman of fiery intellect and hidden sorrows. Their union bore twins Arthur and Amelia, whose birth coincided with a lunar eclipse, omen of ill fate in local law. Reginald's alchemical pursuits intensified. In the sealed East Wing, rebuilt after the mysterious fire, he constructed a laboratory filled with bubbling retorts and shelves of glowing phials. He sought to master the entity's power, believing he could break the cycle. But the Guardian demanded tribute. Amelia, delicate and visionary, began experiencing visions, glimpses of past sacrifices, Beatrice's form merging with shadows that clawed at her dreams. By 1760, Arthur, the heir, displayed a ruthless streak, expanding the family holdings into industrial ventures, coal mines burrowing into the moors like veins tapped for black blood. Workers whispered of tunnels where lights failed and voices echoed from the depths, mimicking lost loved ones. Accidents mounted, collapses that buried men alive, their screams lingering in the shafts long after rescue efforts ceased. One night in 1775, during a fierce gale, Amelia vanished from her chambers. Search parties scoured the estate, finding her nightgown torn and bloodied near the ancient hawthorn. Reginald, racked with guilt, confessed to Victoria. He had offered Amelia in a botched ritual, attempting to sate the entity without full sacrifice. Victoria, horrified, fled the hall, only to perish in a carriage accident on the moors, her vehicle overturned, horses maddened by unseen terrors. Arthur inherited amid scandal, marrying Lavinia, a socialite from London, in 1780. Their children, Henry, Sophia, and the youngest, Victor, grew in an atmosphere thick with unspoken dread. The hall's hauntings escalated, poltergeist activity shattered mirrors, books flew from shelves inscribed with pleas for release, and a pervasive odor of sulfur wafted from the cellars. Henry, the eldest, delved into the occult, forming a secret society with like-minded aristocrats. They convened in the hall's hidden chambers, performing seances that summoned echoes of the past. During one such gathering in 1805, the entity manifested, a swirling vortex of shadow that claimed two guests, their bodies found desiccated as if drained of life. Sophia, sensitive to the supernatural, documented the phenomena in letters smuggled to a distant cousin. "The hall breathes," she wrote. "It watches, it hungers. Father speaks of a debt, but it is we who pay." Her warnings went unheeded. In 1810, she was found drowned in the estate's ornamental pond, her hands clutching water lilies stained red. Victor, the survivor, assumed the mantle in 1820 after Arthur's mysterious death. Poison, some said, self-administered to escape the madness. Victor modernized the estate, installing gas lamps that flickered unnaturally, casting elongated shadows that seemed to whisper secrets. He married Eliza, an American heiress, bringing transatlantic wealth but also fresh eyes to the curse. Their son Theodore, born in 1835, grew amid the Victorian era's fascination with the macabre. The hall hosted spiritualist gatherings where mediums channeled the Thornton dead. One medium, Madame Elara, screamed during a session, claiming to see the guardian, a colossal form of writhing tendrils, eyes like burning coals, demanding the bloodline's end. By 1850, Theodore's experiments crossed into forbidden science vivisections in the cellars, blending alchemy with anatomy. His wife, Clara, bore him daughters, Isabel and Constance. But the entity struck again. Constance vanished at age 7, her toys found arranged in a ritual circle. The climax approached in 1875. Theodore, aging and paranoid, gathered the remaining family for a confrontation. In the cellar, before the altar now cracked and pulsating, he attempted a final rite to sever the pact. Shadows coalesced, voices of the vanished Thorntons rising in a cacophony. Isabel, witnessing the horror, fled screaming into the moors, never to return. Theodore perished that night, his body found twisted, as if crushed by immense pressure. The hall fell silent, but the curse lingered. Descendants scattered, but the entity called them back. In 1900, a distant cousin, Marcus Thornton, returned to claim the estate, only to vanish within weeks. As the 20th century loomed, the Thorntons' secrets festered, the hall a decaying monument to their folly. Listener, the narrative closes here, but the echoes persist. What became of the surviving bloodline? The moors hold their tongues, but the wind carries fragments of truth. Chilling, unrelenting. To truly grasp the Thornton family's descent, we must venture beyond the veil of fiction into the murky waters of history and folklore, where fact and legend entwine like roots in cursed soil. The Thorntons, though shrouded in mystery, draw from real threads of England's dark past. A tapestry woven with witchcraft, colonialism, and the occult revival that gripped the nation. Begin with the 17th century Elias Thornton's era. England reeled from the Civil War 1642-1651, a time of upheaval where old certainties crumbled. The execution of Charles I in 1649 symbolized the death of divine right, birthing a vacuum filled by superstition and fear. Witch hunts peaked, inspired by the Pendle witch trials of 1612 in nearby Lancashire. 12 accused witches were hanged, their confessions extracted under torture, speaking of pacts with demons for power, echoing Elias's alleged rituals. Local law held that the Moors harbored fetch spirits, doppelgangers that lured victims to their doom, much like the apparitions in Thornton Hall. The slave trade, Elias's shadowy foundation, was England's grim engine. By 1680, the Royal African Company monopolized the trade, shipping over 100 Zeros and enslaved Africans annually. Thornton, like merchants, profited immensely, but at a spiritual cost. African diaspora folklore blended with English myths, tales of Obeah sorcery, protective and vengeful magic, may have influenced Elias's rites, as traders brought back artifacts and stories of spirits demanding blood for boons. Moving to the 18th century, the Enlightenment clashed with persistent occultism. Reginald's alchemical pursuits mirror figures like John Dee, Elizabeth I's astrologer, who scryed with crystal balls and communed with angels or demons. The Hellfire Club, founded in 1718 by Sir Francis Dashwood, hosted aristocratic debauchery laced with mock Satanism, paralleling Henry's secret society. These clubs mocked religion, but delved into real esoterica, blending Freemasonry with ancient grimoires like the Key of Solomon. The Industrial Revolution 1760–1840 amplified the Thorntons' horrors. Arthur's coal mines evoked the era's exploitation. Child laborers toiled in darkness, accidents claiming thousands. The Peterloo Massacre of 1819 highlighted class tensions, while folklore spoke of knockers, mine spirits warning of collapses or luring workers deeper. Yorkshire's moors, site of Bronze Age barrows, fueled legends of boggarts and padfoots, malevolent entities that haunted isolated estates much like the Guardian. Victorian England's 1837–1901, Theodore's time obsessed with death and the supernatural. The spiritualist movement, sparked by the Fox sisters in 1848, saw seances in every parlor. Madame Blavatsky's Theosophy, 1875, blended Eastern mysticism with Western occultism, inspiring Thornton-like experiments. The era's Gothic literature, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, c. 1890, Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1897, mirrored the family's blend of science and horror. Cultural trauma from the Opium Wars of 1839–1860 tied back to Jonathan's trade, with opium dens evoking hallucinatory visions akin to the Hall's hauntings. Folklore of vanishing families abounds. The Lost Colony of Roanoke of 1587 in America, or Scotland's Merry King's Close, sealed during plague outbreaks trapping souls. In England, The Curse of the Baskervilles inspired Conan Doyle's Hound, rooted in Dartmoor legends near Yorkshire. Cultural beliefs in ancestral curses, like the Irish Banshee, wail foretelling death, infuse the Thornton saga, blending Celtic and Anglo-Saxon dread. Eerily, real estates like Borley Rectory, dubbed England's most haunted house in the 1920s, report poltergeists and vanishings investigated by Harry Price. The Thornton Hall parallels such sites, where history's unresolved traumas manifest as ghosts. This context lends authenticity to the nightmare, reminding us that humanity's darkest impulses, greed, exploitation, hubris, are etched in our collective past. The Thorntons stand as a microcosm, their curse a metaphor for empires built on blood. As we explore, the line between history and haunting blurs, leaving an unsettling residue. Peeling back the flesh of the Thornton narrative reveals a skeleton of profound themes, symbols that tap into the marrow of human fears. This story is no mere ghost tale, it is a mirror reflecting our primal terrors, cultural wounds, and the abyss within. Symbolically, Thornton Hall embodies the haunted house archetype, a psyche made manifest. Freudian analysis sees it as the id, repressed desires erupting in spectral form. The cellars represent the subconscious, where buried secrets fester, much like in Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. The entity, the Guardian, symbolizes inherited trauma, generational sin passed like a poisoned chalice, echoing epigenetic studies where stress imprints DNA. Universal fears abound. The terror of legacy. The Thorntons grapple with predestination. Can one escape blood's call? This connects to Greek tragedies like Oedipus, where fate devours free will. In modern terms, it mirrors addiction or abuse cycles where families perpetuate harm despite vows to break them. Cultural trauma infuses the tale. England's colonial past, slave trade, industrial exploitation, manifests as the curse. The entity's demands parallel the vampiric nature of empire draining lives for wealth. Post-colonial theory via Fanon said, views this as the colonizer haunted by the colonized's ghosts, a reckoning long overdue. Human nature's duality, Shiny's ambition versus morality. Elias's pact reflects Faustian bargains, trading soul for power. Psychological lenses like Jung's shadow archetype explain the Thornton's dissent. Repressing darkness invites its eruption. Vanishing symbolize erasure, the fear of oblivion in a world that forgets. Thematically, isolation breeds madness. The Moors, vast and indifferent, amplify existential dread, akin to Lovecraft's cosmic horror, insignificance before ancient forces. Gender dynamics emerge. Women like Isabella, Amelia bear the curse's brunt, sacrificed for male ambition, critiquing patriarchal structures. Intellectually ominous, the story probes ethics of knowledge. Reginald's pursuits warn of hubris, echoing Frankenstein's warning, playing God invites destruction. In our AI era, it questions unchecked innovation. Will our creations turn on us? Ultimately, the Thorntons haunt because they are us, flawed, ambitious, chained to the past. Their secrets whisper of universal shadows, leaving us to ponder our own bloodlines' hidden horrors. As the embers of our tale flicker low, we emerge from Thornton Hall's gloom. But the chill lingers, a spectral hand upon your shoulder, the dark secrets of the Thornton family. Pacts sealed in blood, vanishings that echo through time, a curse that devours its own, serve as a grim testament to the perils of unchecked ambition. Summarizing the saga from Elias's fateful ritual to Theodore's doomed defiance, each generation paid the entity's toll, their prosperity a facade crumbling under supernatural weight. The hall stands today, perhaps in ruins, a sentinel on the moors where winds carry whispers of the lost. Yet questions linger. Does the bloodline endure, scattered and unwitting, awaiting the guardian's call? Or has the entity slumbered, sated for now, only to awaken in our modern world? In an age of genetic tracing and forgotten histories resurfacing, one wonders if such curses truly die. Listener, as you extinguish your light tonight, heed this: some doors, once opened, never fully close. The Thorntons' legacy echoes in your mind. A haunting refrain blood remembers, and debts demand payment. Sleep uneasily, for the throne of nightmares awaits your dreams.